Yo, 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 yo. Welcome on in. Philly Take with RB live here on a Thursday. Random pop-up 4 Eastern, because as you can see, we are about to hear from Sixers owner Joshua Harris, interim GM Bob Myers on the future direction of the franchise. Daryl Morey fired. What comes next? We have updates, we have reports, we have breakdowns, analysis, and more. But I can't wait to hear what these guys have to say, man, because this is shaping out to be maybe the biggest offseason yet for the Philadelphia 76ers. So what will it be, man? How will it go? Let's find out, man. Philly Take with RB live. Shout out to the community, man. Appreciate y'all being here, man. Thursday afternoon. We'll get to all of you in the chat and we'll break this down, man. But wanted to come on here and live react to the press conference coming up here in about 10 minutes. Joshua Harris and Bob Myers. There were a couple reports that came out yesterday that kind of had me a little bit back and forth in terms of this whole thing and what comes next and what we should expect. But I also want to hear from the chat. Like, who do you want to see become the next Sixers president or GM or whatever the case is? You know, will guys like Elton Brand stick around? I think there's a lot of decisions, and hopefully the reporters come in full-fledged, ready to give Josh Harris the smoke a little bit, you know? Put him in front of the front line. Like, I feel like it's crazy that Josh Harris didn't even talk at the trade deadline. He let Daryl Morey go up there and take all the bullets, when I feel like Josh Harris had a lot of responsibility in what happened and how the season has gone. I'll be honest, I'm trying to think of the last time Josh Harris actually did a press conference. Was it? No, it can't be the James Harden one, right? It can't be the James Harden press conference. Was it? Has he talked to the media since then? Maybe at one of the end of the season pressers? It's been a long time since we heard from this guy. And I think that us, the fans, deserve a lot of answers and also some direction. Like, what's going to happen next? So we will break it down. We will react to it. Do me a favor, if you're in here live with us or if you're listening on the playback, do me a favor and like the show, subscribe to the channel. We are about to hit 55K. I do want to apologize for not streaming the playoff game the other day. As soon as we had started that stream, you know, all the news broke, so I wanted to get to that. There is a playoff game tomorrow and potential game 7s on Sunday. So we will probably stream one of those games if there is a game 7. And we will be streaming the conference finals as well as the NBA finals. And then we have draft content to get to in the next couple weeks. We have obviously more on this stuff going on. And the NBA offseason. It never stops. The grind never stops. But hey, anyway, welcome on in, man. If you are just tuning in and you're like, why is RB Live? What's going on? Joshua Harris and Bob Myers about to speak to the media. I'm really curious to hear what they have to say. Now, before I get to all of that, once again, this show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Shout out to our great partners at Prize Picks. And I want to bring up something that came out yesterday. There was a clip on Twitter from Shams Charania, and I'm just going to play the clip, and I want you to give me your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about what Shams had to say? Take a listen.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on him. Also, keeping an eye on this to the team that the Knicks just eliminated. The Sixers moving on from Daryl Morey. Former Warriors GM and President Bob Myers will be leading the search for a new.
Can you guys hear that clip? Let me know in the live chat. Drop a 1 if you can hear that that audio clip. I want to make sure everybody can hear this. Had a little bit of technical difficulties earlier today, so just want to make sure that everybody can hear what's going on. Let me know if you guys can hear this audio clip from Shams and ESPN. I just don't want to play the whole thing and then they're like, oh, I can't hear it. All right, I see one's in the chat. Let's play the clip.
An eye on this to the team that the Knicks just eliminated. The Sixers moving on from Daryl Morey. Former Warriors GM and President Bob Myers will be leading the search for a new president of basketball operations. So, Shams, what can you tell us about what the Sixers are looking for in their next executive?
Jay, the Sixers are going to be hiring a new...
See what I mean, man? Got technical difficulties going on today, man. Come on. Come on, X. Come on, X. What's going on, man?
Head of basketball operations, someone that will now carry...
Aye, man. Got buffering. Hold on. Let's see what we can do here. Sorry, everybody. I'm trying to get this clip playing in real time.
Operations,
all right, here we
someone
go.
that will now carry it forward from a leadership perspective, but that person will partner with Bob Myers, who's the four-time championship executive and architect of the Golden State Warriors, and now he's the president of sports for multiple teams on the portfolios of owners Josh Harris and David Blitzer. Remember, Bob Myers oversaw the hiring of Adam Peters with the Washington Commanders. He also...
All right, so he goes on to talk about how, he's helped Josh Harris and David Blitzer and how Bob Myers has had a pivotal role in these different organizations. But, when I brought this up a couple of days ago, everybody was like, no, you're just overthinking this. Like, Bob Myers is just the replacement temporary interim GM. But the fact that Shams Charania came on here on ESPN and he said that whoever gets hired will partner with Bob Myers moving forward, that kind of stirs things up. That creates a blurred line in a way, because I'm just sitting here like, wait, what? What do you mean? I thought Bob Myers was the interim GM. Listen, I keep coming back to this because based on the way it was reported a couple days ago, based on that Shams article, and look, I'm not saying that anything is for sure. Hopefully we get these answers in about 5 minutes here. But when we did the live stream a couple days ago, they reported it as Bob Myers will lead the search for the next GM. And that makes me think, well, why isn't Josh Harris leading the search for the next GM? Here's the positive about Bob Myers, right? A lot of people in the comments are like, RB, why are you so obsessed with Bob Myers? He's not even my first hire. Like, he's not the guy I would want above everything else. I'll tell you more about what I would want. But if it is Bob Myers who kind of takes that lead role, there is a big positive to having him make decisions for the 76ers, I guess. And that is, he feels like the one guy that can kind of check Josh Harris a little bit, Like, if he makes decisions with the Washington Commanders and the New Jersey Devils and the other team that Harris has, plus he's a four-time champion executive, I'm not going to say it's all credit to him, but also he deserves some credit, right? Like, some people have tried to take away credit from Bob Myers. The guy built a dynasty. But most importantly, it's a relationship business. So Bob Myers hopefully can be the guy to get in Josh Harris's ear a little bit and say, yo, here's what you have to do, man. I'm the architect. Here's the blueprint. You need to open up your wallet and spend some money. You need to do this. You need to do that. I know what this takes. It does not feel to me that in the past that Elton Brand or Daryl Morey or whoever have had that much power to kind of stand up and say, no, I want to do this. It feels like everything kind of channels back to Josh Harris. But with Bob Myers being as close to him as he is, I do think Bob Myers in some way or some capacity will have the, I guess, authority to step up and kind of lead decisions. So I do like that. I do like that. So anyway, that just goes back to what Shams said yesterday, and it continues to be reported as Bob Myers is going to have some kind of role here. One more thing I wanted to bring up before we get to this press conference. There was a report put out by Sixers Adam that Daryl Morey attempted to trade for the following players: Brandon Pajemski, Jalen Smith, Aaron Wiggins, Tari Eason, Sadiq Bey, Najee Marshall, Dante DiVincenzo, and Ryan Dunn at last year's trade deadline. Couple things. Number one, I don't believe this for a second, because you're telling me that as an executive with the track record that Daryl Morey has with trades, that he couldn't pull off one of these moves. I don't buy it for a second. I don't buy it at all. And on top of that, I feel that even if he did want to trade for anybody, it wasn't going to happen. I retweeted this tweet and I put, here are the players that the Sixers traded for at the deadline. Nobody. They subtracted from the team. So I'm sorry. I don't buy this at all. You know, there's a couple players on here that I would have liked, but is that realistic? Do you think Daryl Morey actually tried to make these moves? It's hard for me to see that, to be quite honest with you. So I just wanted to give my take there. All right. I think the press conference is about to start. So ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Once again, welcome in Philly Take with RB. And yeah, let's see if we can. All right. So press conference is live, but yeah, man, shout out to everybody in the chat. Should start here momentarily, and we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Chat, how are we feeling, man? Let's go to the comments here. We have a $2 super chat from Philly for Life. Philly, what's going on, my dude? What's up, Philly? Shout out to the channel members in here, man. Thank you all so much for your support. I really appreciate it. And just everybody staying tapped in during the off season. Like I've said before, we have some big things planned for the future. And obviously the game day show will resume. We will stream some of the other playoff games. So we got a lot in store, man. But of course, we're going to live stream any news during the off season as well. Philly for Life says, what up, RB? What we got going on, bro? Presser. Yes, sir. Josh Harris and Bob Myers getting ready to speak to the 76ers media. I can't remember the last time Josh Harris actually sat in front of the media. I think it was the James Harden trade. I honestly think that was the last time that Josh Harris got up on the podium and sat and talked. So, let's see. Dead Stew, channel member, says, big plan of Morey was to trade J-Mac for Pods. Yeah, that would have been absolutely terrible. I wouldn't even want Brandon Pajemski. No, thank you. No, thank you. Let's make sure that it's not live on Twitter, because sometimes they do this thing where, like, you know, the Twitter feed has it and the YouTube doesn't. Sixers got to iron out. And we better be able to hear these press conferences, man. We better be able to hear them. Let's refresh here and see if they're here. Maybe Josh Harris is taking a private jet in or something. But anyway, man, welcome on in. Guys, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and appreciate y'all being here, man. Much love. Much love to everybody out there. Tough end of the season, but lot to talk about. Oh, and by the way, once this is concluded, we are going to spend a little bit of time before we get out of here talking about the potential replacement candidates and what I want to see and all that. I will have like an official list out, so make sure you follow me on all social medias, but we're just going to talk about it for a few minutes. If you have any thoughts on who you want for the next GM or how you feel about this, let me know in the chat. But yeah, man, let's go. Let's go. Someone says, what about Malik Rose, Philly guy, damage control in Morey's camp? Estelle, channel member, what's up, says everything will depend on Embiid. Beer Batter, Gummy Shark, what's up? Only reason McCain was traded was the PG suspension. Exactly. Exactly. None of the players are better than McCain. Exactly. Let's see. RB, this is Joe from Atlanta. I'm using a different account. I would not miss this for the world. I love your coverage. Joe, shout out to you, my brother. Let's hit the bell for Joe, man. Great comment.
New leadership, I take it very seriously.
Here we go.
The city is a passionate fan base. This is a blue blood organization. And so to get put in this position is a privilege. It's an honor. I view myself as a steward to the fan base, and I take that very seriously. I wouldn't have come here if I didn't think Josh and David Blitzer and HBSE was not serious about winning and weren't committed to winning. Again, I view these things as great challenges. These are great responsibilities to be in these chairs, but also not easy. and I know we have challenges ahead. I spent yesterday with the existing members of the basketball front office in Chicago. Elton Brand is there today with the group. We've got a lot of work to do. And we know that. With the 22nd pick in the draft, time to get to work. We're less than 48 hours, though, away from this change. So I have some work to do, and I look forward to doing that. And again, what I would say is when you look at the NBA, there's a few places that stand out as far as the history of the organization, the care of a city, and this is certainly one of them. And I'm excited to kind of move forward in this role. After that, questions.
Gina Mizell from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Bob, can you, right here, sorry. Can you sort of detail just sort of what qualities you are most looking for as you begin this search, what you're going to prioritize and what you feel like are what this organization needs in that type of leader at this point in time?
Gina?
Yes.
I'm a big believer in character and leadership, and I'm looking for a person that embodies those things. But there's many characteristics under that I believe kind of qualified in making a modern GM a success. There's front-facing responsibilities. There's responsibilities of managing star players. There's responsibilities of managing up to ownership. There's contract negotiations. There's draft process. There's evaluating analytics. There's medical staff. You go down the line, and these jobs have an enormity to them. So I'm looking to find someone that can check as many of those boxes as possible, but also raise their hand and say, you know what, I'm actually not good in this space. I'm going to need some support. Because the misnomer about these jobs is I had some success in my previous job, but it wasn't me by myself. There are teams of people that make a team and an organization successful. So making sure we have the right person to lead them, but also the right people underneath them, which is important. And the person that is going to get this job, like I said, I hope they check all those. They won't. It doesn't exist. How can we support them in roles that they don't have?
Bob Cooney from On Patterson. What are some of the biggest obstacles that you see for this organization right now going into next year's, immediately? And then some of the things that are beneficial to the next president of basketball operations for this organization.
What was your name you said?
Bob Cooney.
Okay, Bob. Nice to meet you. I think, look, there'll be one happy team at the end of this season. Just one. There'll be 29 teams that didn't get the job done. We're one of them. We're one of the 29 that didn't win the championship this year. Our season's over. And so you have to acknowledge the why of that and how did we get here, right? So there's some good moments. There's some good things about this organization. And there's some things we need to get better at. And some of those things, Bob, we can fix internally, and some of them we can't. And so we have to be honest about who we are and why we came up short. Because you only do these jobs, you only take these jobs. I only take these jobs to win a championship. I think players, if they're being honest, only play to win a championship. I didn't hear any players say, well, we had a great season and this is exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted to get swept in the second round. Nobody's saying that.
Bob, answer the question.
Why did it happen and what can we do? And again, that involves an intense evaluation process, getting to know the players, getting to know the coaches, getting to know what works better, what can we change. And sometimes those solutions are ours to control and sometimes they're not. Having done this job previously, sometimes I could get the team better internally, and sometimes I couldn't. And then you have to make changes externally. So that's our job. I think there are some positives and there's some things that are challenges that we have to work through. But all of it has to be evaluated, starting with now we've got a 22nd pick in the draft. We've got to get that right. And then there's free agency. And then there's an offseason.
We want the GM, Bob. We don't want the ESPN overwinded answers, Bob. That's all I'm going to say. I'll let it play.
Okay.
Tony Jones from The Athletic. One of the adage in the NBA is that it's doable to go from bad to good, but it's very, very difficult to go from good to championship contender. You guys have gone from bad to good. You've accomplished that. What is it going to take for you guys to go from, second round knockout to championship contender, and why haven't you guys done it?
Tony, I believe that adage, because when you're bad, you can try anything, and if it doesn't work, you're still bad. But if you're good, you have to risk something to go to great. So that's why it is harder to go from good to great, because you risk something. You risk making a mistake and falling back to bad. When you're good, you're scared to do that, or you're more resistant because you say, if it doesn't work, we're going to be bad. When you're bad, if it doesn't work, we're still bad. But yes, that is the nuance and challenge of any team, right? So there's some teams, there's a lot of teams. We made it to the Elite Eight, you might say. Well, You know, you don't get really celebrated for that in this business, nor do I believe should you. So then you say, what do we need to do to get to great? I've actually been lucky enough to see what great looks like, but that's not easy, right? It's not easy. So it's a hard look at everything. It's a hard look at whoever we hire, and we'll place it on them. It's a hard look at what I've experienced and what I know that makes a championship team. But it's also a question to our players. Do you want to get uncomfortable? Because it takes a great level of uncomfortability to win a championship. Attention. Do we have that? Do you want that? Do we want that? Do you want to take that responsibility on? Are we satisfied? I know he's not. And our players better not be satisfied with 4 to 6 second round playoffs. Yeah, yes, it's not easy to make the playoffs, but nobody plays this game to make the playoffs. In fact, 16 teams make the playoffs, more than half the league. That's not anybody's goal. The goal is to win a championship. So I say these things. But I also want to say clearly how hard it actually is and how hard it will be. There is
We get it. We get it.
Me sit up here at a press conference and talk for 10 seconds, and that's the answer to fixing everything, and we're off. This requires a ton of work. And so whoever we bring into this process, including myself, including our staff, our players, has to be committed to that in a very big way. And that means sacrificing time and energy and putting everything you have into this. And we're going to demand that. I'm going to demand that of whoever we hire. I'm going to do that myself because I just don't know how to not do it. But we need our players to want that too. And that's our challenge to put on them.
Bob, this is David Murphy from the Philadelphia Inquirer. In this process, who will be setting the philosophy big picture wise? Are you going into the search saying this is what we think this roster can become? For instance, early in Steph Curry's career, there was questions about whether to trade him or not. There's a person saying, no, this guy is going to be a guy that we build around, and a championship roster will be developed around him. Is that, are you looking for someone who will answer that question themselves, or is that something that you're going into it kind of having looked at this roster, knowing what general direction it needs to go in?
David, I'm a big believer in whatever the best answer is. Whoever comes up with that is the best answer. I don't care who says it, but it requires a lot of debate, a lot of conversation. I'll tell you what I'm looking for in a leader: somebody that's committed to getting it done, to getting us there. And is aligned with myself, is aligned with Josh, is aligned with our expectations, our work ethic, our commitment, our competitiveness. If they want to make a big statement about what we need to do, I'll listen to that. I asked the staff last night that exists, what are you guys going to do? What do you think? A lot of different answers. And they said, what do you think? I said, I don't know the answer, but we're going to figure out the answer.
Oh my God, dude.
As far as like one specific thing, I never think, like I said, having been fortunate enough to see how you win. I love Steph Curry. I love him. He got one Finals MVP. It's just crazy. It's not but it's not one person that wins championships. It's a team that wins, and he would say that too. And he doesn't care. He's got 4 NBA championships. That's what matters. It's not about anything else. It's about the team, and we want as many people that I know that nature is to look at one person. It's never one person. It's a team of people. Whoever wins it this year, it won't be one guy. It'll be a team of people. And we got to figure out what team we can put together that has an opportunity to do that.
And what do we need with the team?
You have a roster right now that has 2 young guys who you mentioned who clearly are potential centerpieces. And then you have 2 older kind of aging veterans who are also among the highest paid players in the league. There's different ways to approach that. Do we build for the future around the 2 guys? Do we try to win next year? Thinking that we can get more out of the 2 old guys. That's kind of the philosophy that I'm referring to.
And that is, David, that is the question. And if I had the answer to that question, I'd actually just do it. I don't know if I need to tell you, I just do it. Or I look forward to partnering with leadership to get that answer.
Oh my
You're
gosh,
asking the right
man.
question, but that's a question.
All right,
I think
enough.
Like, how do
you want to hear Josh Harris, man?
To criticize an older player or praise a younger player. It's about how do we get past the second round? How do we get further? But that's what makes the job hard. That's what makes it gratifying, is figuring. If it was easy, it wouldn't be worth it. It's very hard to build these things and build them in the right way.
Hi, Josh. Hi, Bob. Crystal Rich, CBS, Philadelphia. Bob, you mentioned that one of the responsibilities and things that you're looking for is someone who can manage star players. You also said you want them to be in alignment with Josh and yourself, which is understandable. And you just touched on this, but what is the dedication, if you will, to see the fulfillment of Joel Embiid and Paul George's contracts, and how much in alignment does the new president of basketball operations have to be with you guys on that? How big of a role does that play in who you select?
Answer the question, Bob.
Again, not having interviewed anybody, that's a good question that I will ask them. Well, how do you feel about our roster, right? And I imagine I'll get different answers from different candidates. And
what was the
you know what? Few that
nah,
stand out. So that's really
what was the point of this press conference? What was the point of this? You're not going to answer any questions.
Talk to candidates or people outside your organization, you get a different answer. When you talk to people inside, there's a bias inside a building as far as outside. Somebody say, you know, actually, I think this can work, or I really like this guy, or what if you played this way, or what if you partnered these two guys? Again, I don't look at it though, and I want to speak for Josh, is whoever we hire, I'm not going to base it on the first thing they do, the first player. If we get it right, this person will be here for a long, long time and make many decisions, and hopefully many of the right decisions. But as far as near term, yeah, those are questions I'll ask, maybe borrow your question. Just ask that question. How do you think this can work? And then I might say, what about this? Josh might say, what about that? The people that have been in the building might say, I think this. I'm a big believer in a group. I didn't win 4 championships. I didn't do that. Our group did that. People did that. And I like that idea. Working in sports is the best thing because you're on a team. And so I look forward to building out someone that can lead that team and work with myself and certainly work with Josh.
And if I could just take you back to the trade deadline, Daryl Morey admitted that he wanted to use the picks that he got for Jared McCain to get a player that can help him this year. It obviously didn't happen. He also said that they traded high for Jared McCain. In retrospect, what is your evaluation of that situation and his, if you will, emotional intelligence of how he came across when he said that?
Well, I'm not going to, I like Daryl. I'm not going to disparage Daryl here today. I think he did a fine job, and I think he's a good person. And what I will say to your question, and I understand why you asked it, is that what I will tell you is that was a few months ago.
Oh,
right now we have a 22nd pick. Our job is to get that.
Oh,
right.
my God.
We have 3 second-round picks from it. I know you're not.
Does Josh Harris have duct tape on his mouth?
Should be graded on the ultimate result of transactions like that. But I understand I made draft picks where we got an F right away, 10 minutes after the draft, F. And I was like, how do they know it's an F? I mean, the guys didn't even play. But your job and everybody's job is to react. I totally understand that. Our job is to make a trade. There'll be a reaction, it'll be positive or negative, but that trade isn't done. And our job is to make sure that on our end of the trade, we do a good job with drafting the best player at 22.
Bob, hi, Adam Aronson from Philly Voice. Can you talk about what you envision your role here being with the Sixers specifically after this hire is made? Josh mentioned the idea of you and Nick and this hire working together and how that differs from what it has been since you started working with HBSE.
Yeah, I view taking the next few weeks, not sure how long it'll be, to identify a day-to-day leader that'll have a lot of authority here, which they should. What they're going to get and our fans are going to get is them plus me. I won't be on the day-to-day level, but on the high-level decision-making, which is being here at the draft, being here leading up to the trade deadline, being available for free agency discussions, free agency meetings, things like that. I'm going to be involved at that level. And I can tell you that I imagine, and this isn't not saying this lightly, I'll be communicating with that person daily, if not 5 out of 7 days a week. You know why? And I don't view that as a job because I want to hire somebody that I can work with. I want to hire somebody that Josh can work with. And most importantly, I want to win. And I think that I have had some experience in this space. And if I have something to say, it's harder for me not to say it than say it. But that'll be my role. And obviously continuing to work with Josh on all this very high level stuff. But I'm looking forward to kind of that role. And, you know, the best part about working in sports is the competition. If you like competition, it's a great space to live in. But you got to deal with some pain. You got to deal with some loss. But when you win, it's all worth it. But that would be how I would characterize it. We got to do a question for Josh.
Yes, yes.
He's getting weird up here.
Holy heck, bro.
Come on.
It's okay. I got one for you.
Yeah.
You've been through a lot with Joel Embiid. Unfortunately, there's uncertainty with him a lot of times in the playoffs with some unfortunate injuries. Do you feel he can be the centerpiece of a team that gets you over the hump to be a championship team with what he's gone through?
Yeah, look, I mean, all the good ones. Look, I think Joel, like we win as a team, we lose as a team. Bob said it's not one player. I think putting all the focus on one player is the wrong place to be. I think that he's an important player on our roster, and he's a warrior, and he's also some of the things that you said are also true. So I think we're gonna we're looking forward to welcoming him back on our team.
Paul Hudrick, Liberty Ballers. Bob, just with the draft coming up, and it is so close, and as you mentioned, they're already kind of, doing a lot of the prep. Do you want to get this person in place before the draft, or is that something where if it doesn't happen, you're comfortable going with the scouting that's already been done and your kind of, history as an executive?
Yeah, I think, Paul, I'd like to have someone. I hope to have someone. But if it hasn't happened, that's okay too. But the goal would be to have someone in place for the draft, to get acclimated with the new group. But by the way, the group is working now. And whoever we hire, not sure who that will be, will likely possibly already be evaluating the draft from where they're coming from. So that's a benefit in some ways. But yeah, I'd like to, and I hope to, but it'll be as much time as required to get the best person. Because again, sure, have someone by the draft, but the goal would be to have someone that's the right person for a long amount of time after that.
Hi, Bob. Hi, Josh. Dave Uram from WIP, KYW Radio. Josh, you talked about a lot of frustration, disappointment in your opening statement and your statement from the other day, understanding the fans' frustration and warranted frustration. I'm curious, taking you back to the end of the series, how did it feel for you sitting in that arena with all the Knicks fans that took over the building?
Yeah, so obviously I didn't like it. I mean, it's our home court. I mean, we did everything we could, including buying tickets to keep the fans out. We geo-fenced, and look, it's on us. I mean, we were, it's on you. Supported us. And let's face it, we got swept. And so for that last game, there were some Knicks fans in the arena, and so our job is to come back and win that series right next year. And so
oh my gosh,
I think that I didn't like it, but it gives me more focus and more orientation, just sort of getting back to work and bringing in. I mean, again, like we have a 4-time NBA champion here, who's, going to be overseeing basketball ops, and that's a big deal. And so there's a recognition that, hey, if we want to be, this city's not going to be satisfied, and we're not going to be satisfied unless we win an NBA championship. That's hard. There's 29 teams there's 30 teams that want to do it. There's 29 other teams. They're all smart, and we need to be smarter. And so that's what this is about. It's about doing everything we can to move to the next level.
Hi, Kai Carlin of Sixers Wire. Bob or Josh, even, I guess, how would you kind of evaluate what Nick Nurse has done through these 3 years? And I'm curious, is he going to have a say in the search at all?
Yeah, look, I think Nick the team played hard for Nick. And, there were a lot of things that happened. I think we all saw where there were various rosters that were available and rosters that weren't available. We were up tempo and then we slowed it down. And he handled all that. And even in the playoffs, the team played hard. And so I think, and Nick's a championship coach. He's won an NBA title. So I think he's earned the right to be here. He's our coach. And moving forward into next season. And so, in terms of the search, I mean, I'll leave that to you, but I think certainly, you talk to your coach, you listen to what they want, but ultimately, his job is not to find the next, GM or president of basketball. It's our job.
Yeah. I mean, look, I saw Nick yesterday in Chicago. He's got enough on his plate. And like Josh said, it is our job and our responsibility to locate this person. And it's not to exclude Nick, but again, he's got enough responsibility. And this is our focus. But look, I imagine somebody that we hire will be a great partner for Nick, and that's what we have to promise him.
Bob, Austin Grell on SI. And you already said earlier that you'll have the new candidate evaluate the roster, but you did watch a lot of basketball this year with this team. What is your evaluation of Joel and Paul and their futures, their current states in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I watched the team just like I'm sure you watched the team. The thing I liked was that we got to see, and it's maybe not completely, but we got to see a healthy team, right? We got to see most, at least in the playoffs for the most part, Joel came back. And when you're healthy in the playoffs, the best part is you don't have any excuses about why you lost. You lost. I didn't like ever going into the playoffs with, well, so-and-so was hurt, and if he had been healthy, we would have. Those hypotheticals aren't helpful. So what is helpful is we played a team, we were mostly healthy, we lost. Okay, let's just be honest about that. Let's acknowledge that. After that, to your question, that's going to be the next leading up to the draft. What do we need to draft? What are we missing? What do we not have? And then the question is going to be, with what we have, how do we get better with what we have? And the final question is going to be, we got mid-level exception. What do we do with that? But back to the other point, I want to partner with somebody that I can have those discussions with in a meaningful way. And I'm going to have those discussions with potential candidates and ask them that question. I don't have that answer today, but our job is to have that answer. It was fascinating to hear from the current staff that I saw yesterday in Chicago what was said at the exit interviews. I find that very impactful. I'm not going to tell you. That's not fair. All of it matters. All these conversations, all the things you learn about an organization when the game is over and you go in the locker room and you talk to the players, you talk to the coach, you talk to the training staff. What happened this season? And until we get all of that, I'm not going to say we've got the answers to that question, but I do know this. We have to get better. We have to find a way to get better.
Josh, to go back over here, to go back to the Jared McCain thing, outside of the granular transaction level one loss opinions, please, from a perspective of high level organization decision making, that's a potentially impactful move, for the future of your organization, trading away a guy you drafted in the first round and had shown a lot his rookie year. And the decision was made by a guy who then 3 months later, you're moving on from and
oh my God,
kind of
ask him the question, man. Ask him the question.
Was that Daryl's move unilaterally?
Thank you.
Were you and Bob kind of involved in okaying that? And if not, how does that make sense? If there was a chance that a move like this would happen and the next guy would have to deal with the aftermath?
Yeah, so the way these things work generally with something like that is the front office makes a recommendation, and then ownership, which included Bob at that point, we okayed it. So I think we were involved in it. It was part of a bigger plan. It's not. I wouldn't say that. As Bob said, we don't know the outcome of that trade right now. We are sitting here with the 22nd pick, but I understand what you're saying and I understand the question. And I heard all, and obviously I understand the view of it here. So I think that right now we're focused on what do we do with all the assets we got in that trade, and we'll know whether that trade was a good trade or not a good trade, over the next year or two. And but yes, that's the way it works.
All right,
for
I've heard
Josh,
enough, man.
Matt DeGeorge from the Delco Times. Daryl had said at the trade deadline that the position of ownership was that you'd be willing to go over the luxury tax if the right situation presented itself. What's your view of that? Is that still something that ownership is willing to do in the right situations moving forward? Is staying under the tax line a priority? How do you view that?
Yeah, I appreciate the question because it's been on chatter and it gives me a chance to answer it directly. The front office absolutely has the green light to go into the luxury tax. In fact, we've been in and out of the luxury tax. And so it's not an issue. I mean, it's just not an issue. We're building an arena here. I can tell you that, the amount of dollars you spend on that versus the luxury tax, it's magnitudes more. We built this facility. We've signed a number of max deals. So there's no issue with the luxury tax. And so I'm glad that you asked.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add to that. I'm not don't know a lot of you, but I just can't imagine a day where if I said to Josh or leadership said to Josh, this deal makes us a contender, but you have to go into the tax. If he says no, which he won't, I wouldn't work for somebody like that. Because look, to be honest, if you look at the history of teams that have won a championship, I was one of them. We were in the tax. It'd be great if you can win a championship by not being in the tax. Very hard to do. But it has to make sense. And so I know, and again, I'm not worried about that part of the job, because if that comes up, I know what the answer will be.
Bob, Zach Cholilum, Metro Philadelphia. Just curious, Elton, you mentioned earlier that Elton is in Chicago. Just about curious about his role moving forward, and if he should have interest in the position, would he be among the considered candidates?
Yeah, I'm going to take, since we just, like I said, not even 48 hours. I'm going to talk to Elton, get his thoughts on things. I've spoken to him. Like I said, he's in Chicago now with the group. Known Elton a long time, figure out what we think is best, but we haven't gotten to that level of detail with any of that yet.
Gotcha. Well, then on to the draft. Just curious about your general overall philosophy. The team has a number of needs regardless which timeline, or if you go 2 timelines. Your personal preference in terms of drafting best player available versus going for a targeted need?
Yeah, look, I think the philosophy will be what I want. I think this group's done a pretty good job drafting, to be honest. I don't want to come in and run over anybody. This existing group, including Daryl, has drafted some good players. Maxey, VJ, good examples of very successful players that were picked. So I'm not an expert in that. I'll give my opinion. I want to meet with the group, hear what they say. Each year is a little bit different as to what you're looking for. See who might be available at that pick, and partner with new leadership and see what their philosophies are on the whole thing. But look, obviously you want somebody you can build on. And Maxey's the ultimate success story in that range. I mean, can't expect that, but at the same time, getting a quality player you can build with.
Hey, Bob, over here. Kyle Newbeck from PHLY. What level of autonomy is the person you're going to hire going to have? Because this organization has had issues in the past where the power structure is more opaque than it appears on the outside. And, with they're inheriting a coach and, potentially people internally, how do you avoid problems with that where there's a clear top-down vision for everything?
Yeah, I think, Kyle, people, right? You need good people. You need good people that are in harmony. So there is no acrimony. You can debate, healthy debate. But I actually, in my previous job, we had a lot of people in the room commenting on what we should do, what we shouldn't do. But ultimately we came together, and I expect a lot of autonomy of this person. If I do a good job, a tremendous amount of autonomy, because that's what you want. Hire somebody, let them do their job. But at the highest level, you certainly give your opinion, you weigh in. When you get into this, I mean, look, a healthy organization, you're not in a room where people are storming out and back channeling and saying, I wouldn't have done that, I would have done this. So hiring a decent person that I can collaborate with. And by the way, it's not your problem. I'm not going to hire somebody that I don't think can be malleable, that can be collaborative, that can be thoughtful, that can take direction, that can be humble enough to say, you know what, that time I didn't get it right. Or, you know what, I really believe in this. You have to give me the strength to make this decision. All those things are part of hiring the right person. And as to what happened in the past, obviously I wasn't here, but I believe we're going to get a very functioning, high-functioning, quality front office with this hire.
Josh, I have a question for you too. I think a lot of criticism recently has been turned toward you, specifically fan frustration wise. There have been some fans who've been thrown out of games recently for yelling things like "sell the team." I guess, what would you say to those people? Because I think some of that is about just the lack of success or lack of championship success, but also maybe some of the
he's looking at the paper
that have not been addressed by you.
Yeah, look, again, I mean, I think I'm very focused on, setting up the team and the club to push through the second round and go to the NBA championship and achieve our goals. And, I care deeply for the team. No one's more frustrated than I am. I understand people's frustration. And, this is, having, going out and getting, someone as talented as Bob to kind of, help Philly achieve its goals. This is the next step in our evolution. And so, all I can tell you is that I'm sweating it really hard. I'm sweating it just as hard or harder than as any of the fans. But that's what I'm focused on. And, I understand people's frustration.
Final question for the afternoon, Daryl. Derek Bodner, also of PHLY. This is for Bob. With some of the changes in the most recent CBA and some of the restrictions that come after exceeding aprons, is it still tenable to have 3 max players, especially on 35% maxes, and still have the depth needed to contend for a title?
Well, we didn't get it done this year with 3 guys, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. I don't totally, I think I know where you're going, and I think it's a smart question in that what's the modern roster supposed to look like with the second apron, really, which is oftentimes operates as kind of a hard cap. The truth is, depth may be more important than it's ever been. Maybe that's the pace of play. Maybe that's what we require of our players more. Not to say that this model doesn't work, but we have to look at what happened this year and be honest about it and see if we got to be honest about, can this model work, right? And that's really the question. And also understanding that depth is key, and you only have a certain amount of resources to spend. So that's all part of the questions. It's all part of what we need to figure out going forward.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's 34 minutes that will certainly go down in Sixers franchise history as 34 of the most interesting minutes I've ever heard in a press conference. Oh my gosh, where do I start, man? Wow. I'm going to give my summation of the whole press conference, and then I'll read some comments. I don't even know what I can say after that presser. I think to begin, sorry, give me a second. I'm trying to pull in a Josh Harris here. I was cracking up on that last question. I feel like Josh Harris was reading off a paper. Like Kyle Neubeck, shout out to Kyle. I will say, all right, hold on, let me fix it. All right. I will say the questions got a little better as the press conference went on, but the answers, man, I mean, holy smokes. What did we come away from that press conference with? I will say, Bob, you got a little bit better. You sharpened up as the presser went on. But for the first 25 of the 35 minutes, it was like I felt like I was watching a movie. You ever watch a movie, like a sports movie, and the coach is like overly motivating, like for the movie script, you know? And it's like corny, but he's like, you know, it just felt like it was like a pep talk from Bob Myers. He's like, I don't know the answer to that question, but I will. But I will hire somebody. Like, who do you want to be? Like, we have to ask our staff and our players and our coaches, and we have to get everybody on the same page. And like, Philly is such a great sports city. And like, I just love the passion, and I just love everybody in this building. And whoever I bring in is going to be able to make decisions. But like, they're asking you questions like, what do you have to do? Like, what about the roster? What about the coaching? What about this? And I felt like the whole first half of it was Bob Myers just fluffing it up. Now, to be fair, for the Sixers media that was in attendance, I don't know if there's a certain number of questions that you can ask one individual. I don't know how Joshua Harris didn't get a question for 20 minutes. He literally did not get a question until Bob Myers said, yo, do you have a question for Josh? So I don't understand it. But my biggest takeaway from Josh Harris was it felt very disingenuous. It felt like he didn't care. The way he was talking, it felt like he just woke up after a late night flight and was like, oh, wait, I have to put on my suit and go to a press conference. And the question from Kyle Neubeck, shout out to Kyle. He always keeps it real, man. Kyle Neubeck asked Josh Harris, hey, there's been a lot of Sixer fans' frustration. People have been getting thrown out of the games. They've been looking at you and saying, you know, sell the team. What do you make of that? How do you feel? And he paused like 3 or 4 times and he looked down at his sheet and he kept looking up. And I'm like, did this guy print out a script for certain questions? I feel like he printed out a couple sentences to have just in case he didn't know what to say. That's how I felt. And everything he said was, yeah, well, we want to win. We want to win more than anything. I was taking notes of a few things that they said. When he was asked that question by Kyle Neubeck, he said, I understand the frustration. I'm sweating it harder than anyone right now. Sweating what? What are you sweating right now? I mean, it looked like you were sweating, but as soon as they ask him about going into the luxury tax, he brings up the new arena. Oh, well, we're bringing a new arena here. And, because we're building a new arena, like the amount of dollars to build my arena versus going into the tax, like it's colossal or whatever he said. And the crazy part is he blamed it on Daryl Morey. The press conference was horrendous. Bob Myers did a lot of the motivation pep talk. He did answer some questions later on that were better. We did get a little bit of an idea on who Bob Myers is going to be and how much of an impact he's going to have on decision-making. He said, I will be involved in high-level decision-making. I like that. A lot of it was word salad. But going back to Josh Harris, when they asked him about the Jared McCain trade, he went out and flat out blamed Daryl Morey. I wrote the quote down just so I could remember it. He flat out blamed Daryl Morey. He said, the front office makes a recommendation and the ownership, which included Bob, right? He had to point that out, okayed it. It was part of something bigger, which is what Daryl Morey said. That was a lie. Because if it was part of something bigger, you don't make the first trade until the second trade happens. I'm sorry, you don't make the trade unless the second trade is going to happen. And then on top of it, he says, well, we don't know the outcome of that trade yet. Are you serious? The Sixers got eliminated because we had no depth. We do know the outcome. They have the 22nd pick in the draft, and Jared McCain is lighting it up for the Thunder in the playoffs. That is the outcome. So he flat out blamed it on Daryl Morey. That's what I wanted to know. Was Josh Harris going to put it all on Daryl Morey? And that is what he did. He actually kind of put it on Bob Myers as well. Couple more things I wrote down. Josh Harris was asked about Joel Embiid. He says, you win as a team. It's not just one player. We look forward to welcoming him back onto the team. So Josh Harris seems like he's going to keep Joel Embiid and Paul George on the roster. And they tried to ask them a couple questions about this different hierarchy and if you can win. Now, the only good answers came right at the end because they were talking about the big three model and they were talking about all that. And, Bob Myers gave the same answer. Oh, well, I don't know the answer to that question. Matter of fact, there was a question at the beginning. And the question to Bob Myers was, what can turn the Sixers into a great basketball team? And he said, if you're good, you have to risk something to go. You have to risk something to go be great. And then on top of that, he was asked about the future direction of the Sixers. And he said, if I knew the answer to that question myself, I would do it. So that kind of was like throwing me all over. That's when I started laughing at the beginning. I'm like, aren't you the guy in charge right now? You just said you're going to be involved in high-level decision-making. So what do you mean you don't know the answer? I don't know. It was shaky. What else did he say? What else did he say? Oh, yeah. But anyway, at the end, he was asked about the depth of the team and like not having enough. And if, Derek Bodner asked him, can you still win with 3 stars in the current CBA with the aprons and all that? And I thought the best quote from Bob Myers was, depth might be more important than ever right now. And he said, you need depth to win. That's true. That's true. Bob Myers knows that. And then he also said, you know, being a 4-time champion with the Golden State Warriors, he said, I would not work for someone that doesn't want to go into the tax, because we went into the tax. We spent money to win. I know that you have to spend money to win. So that was like the save the press conference answer by Bob Myers. That was like the most quality thing that I heard. But outside of that, it was a lot of fluff, word salad. It felt like the reporters were terrified at the beginning. Now, I haven't been around Josh Harris before, so I don't know what kind of person he is. Like, I don't know if he's easy to talk to or if he comes off as very, like, closed off and he doesn't want to, like, have any conversation. But just I don't even know if, like, the tone, maybe? The tone, it just sounded like he didn't care. But yeah, I don't know, man. That press conference, I don't know, man. I come away from that press conference, my final takeaways is I come away feeling that it's kind of a scatter plot right now, that it's kind of all over. It doesn't sound like there is a definitive concrete plan in place, and that is what concerns me as someone who watches this team and covers them and thinks about, okay, the next iteration, right? Like, I said this at the beginning of the show. I said it a couple days ago, but like looking forward, right? What do I want in a candidate? I want someone that's going to come in with a fresh set of ideas, with their philosophy, and is going to know, okay, here's the first thing I want to do. Here's the second thing I want to do. I'm going to believe in what I want to do, and I'm going to make it happen. I would prefer someone that is like young, that is fearless, that, you know, maybe they've never been a GM. That's fine. But like somebody that's going to come in with some guts here and make things happen. And they asked Bob Myers and Josh Harris about like, hey, is the new hire going to happen before the draft, during the draft, after? And they were like, I don't know. It's just going to take some time. And, you know, if it doesn't, well, we have the 22nd pick. He said that a lot. We have the 22nd pick. So don't worry. We have the 22nd pick. Yeah, I know we have the 22nd pick. But who's going to make the pick? And then he said, well, you know, I want someone that I can collaborate with and that I'm going to be involved in high-level discussions like the trade deadline and the free agency. But I'm also going to communicate with them 5 days a week. Like, it was just all over the place, man. It didn't sound like, okay, boom, here's agenda number 1. Boom, here's task number 5. Like, here's what we're going to do. It just sounded like they were all over the place. So maybe I shouldn't expect anything else because this is usually how the press conferences go. But I just thought that especially a guy like Bob Myers, you know, for most of it would have his stuff together. And if you were going to come out and do a press conference, then why would you actually go out there and answer questions if you're not going to answer anything? So that is how I come away feeling after that press conference. I do not believe a word Josh Harris said. I feel like he was looking at his papers. Like I said, when Kyle Neubeck asked him the question of the fans being frustrated and how that makes him feel, and fans getting kicked out for chanting "sell the team," and how he felt when the Knicks took over the building, he kept looking up and down like he was reading off of a script. And then he said he's sweating it harder than anyone. But it didn't feel like he had any passion. That concerns me. And that goes back to what I've said since the trade deadline, which is until ownership changes, it's hard to see things really taking stride. Unless Josh Harris is a full-on, hands-off, you go do your thing and I'm going to stay away, and you have the full autonomy to do whatever you want. That's how I feel, man. All right. What I want to do here to end this one off, I'm going to talk about a few candidates. I want to read out your comments. Chat. Shout out to everybody still in here. Got a ton of people in here, man. Let me know how you feel about the press conference. If you had to sum up that press conference in one sentence or two, or you have a couple main thoughts about how that press conference went, how do you feel about it? Was it good? Was it bad? Was it everything you wanted to know? Did you not expect anything? Did you learn anything? How do we feel? And we'll review a couple more quotes as well. But give me your one-liner main thoughts on that press conference. Before I read some of those out and tell you about some of my favorite candidates, got to give a shout out to the partner of the show over at Prize Picks. Ladies and gentlemen, the playoffs are ongoing. There is no better way to cash in on high-flying hoops action than with Prize Picks, a preferred partner of the NBA. Every bucket, dime, and win means more when you're playing on Prize Picks. Don't pass up your next shot with Prize Picks. Get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first 5. Right now in their app during the playoffs, you got to check out the Do It Live Squares 2026 NBA Finals sweepstakes. You can pick live squares with a chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals for 2. To enter, all you have to do is make a $5 lineup with at least one live player pick during any part of the 2026 NBA playoffs. Live player picks are picks made after a game is already in progress. You know about all their player parlays and stuff. They have the flex plays, the power plays, for more flexibility or for bigger payouts. Get in on all the action today. Prize Picks is available in all 50 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. And they also offer early payouts, so if your player gets off to a hot start, you have the option to cash out the winnings before the game even finishes. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS, get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, use code CLNS, get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Shout out to Prize Picks, a preferred partner of the NBA. All right, ladies and gentlemen, how do we feel about this press conference? Let's see. What does the chat say? By the way, I did miss a super chat. My apologies. $2 super chat. Philly for life says, like I've been saying, same ownership, nothing changes. Busy B, welcome back to the Fire Take Nation. Shout out to Busy B. Let's see. What does the chat have to say? Lying through his teeth. That's what we think about Josh Harris. Expected, didn't learn anything, scattered, scripted on Chat GPT. 2 people have no real answers. Harris has no clue what was happening. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel as well. They asked him about the Knicks fans taking over the building, and he was like, yeah, it sucks, but I hope that we can get back. I hope that we can get back next year and win that series. Obviously, it sucks when we get swept, but we just got to get back and win that series. Oh, the one part. Okay, so I remember there was one thing I wanted to point out that I thought was asinine from Bob. Now, Bob, I thought you got a lot better during the press conference, but there was a question about health with the Sixers, right? And I don't know if Bob has been managing all the different teams and just pretty much doing all the work that Josh Harris probably is not doing. But they asked him about health, and he said, when you go through the playoffs healthy and you lose, it's good because there's no excuse that you can make. Oh, well, we would have won if so-and-so player was healthy. Bob, did you watch the playoffs, my man? The entire Sixers team was banged up. Paul George has been injured the entire season. Tyrese Maxey couldn't even shoot a couple months ago with his pinky and the tendon injury that he came back 2 weeks early from. And Joel Embiid missed half of the first series, missed game 1 of the Knicks series, and was pretty much not right the entire series. So I didn't understand that at all. No, the problem is that every year at the end of the season, when the Sixers lose in the second round, we sit there and we say, wait, maybe if they were actually healthy for once and the full team was on the floor, we would be okay. So that was a crazy answer from Bob, man. That was a crazy answer. I forgot about that till now. Oh, there was a lot in this, man. A lot of fluff. A lot of fluff. A lot of fluff, man. Smiley says Cancun. Dom says oblivious. Dan B in the chat says hopeless. At least Bob had enthusiasm and was professional. Josh sounded like he got out of bed. Yeah, that's true though, man. That is true. At least Bob did have a pep in his step a little bit. Felt like he was a coach giving a pep talk to like a little league team. That's what it felt like. And again, Bob Myers does have experience, you know? I didn't expect Bob Myers to be leading the press conference. I'm not mad at Bob with his lack of substance answers because I didn't expect him to get the majority of the press conference. I thought it would be for Josh Harris. Like, I thought Bob Myers would be an accomplice and say, hey, yeah, like, I'm going to lead the charge for the next GM search and we'll see what happens. And like, here's what I want. Here's what I see. But Josh Harris didn't even get a question for like 20 minutes. So I don't know, man. I don't know. You're not listening to what the man said. I listened to every single word that they said. I listened to the entire press conference right here live with the chat, and I heard everything that was said. Simple as that. $2 super chat. Philly for life says, show Bob nor Josh watch the team or care except for money. Well, I think in the case of Bob Myers, and thank you for the super chat, Philly. I think with Bob Myers, again, he's like the president or whatever he is of Harris Blitzer. So he's involved with like the more business-like things now, which again, I'm still confused why he took that job unless he's making way more money than he did on ESPN. Because Bob Myers was on the ESPN, halftime show and postgame show, and I feel like he must have been doing well for himself. So he left that and he got up again and left and came over to Harris Blitzer to become the president. Maybe he's making a lot of money. I don't know. But does Bob Myers really want to step into this Sixers mess and try to navigate it? It sounded like he's going to have at least a decent role in decision making. And maybe Josh Harris instructed him to do that. Maybe that was part of the plan when he left ESPN. Maybe Josh Harris said, look, if things go downhill and if Daryl Morey gets to a point where we have to fire him and we have to do this and the team doesn't win, well, you're next up, buddy. You're going to take over. Maybe that's how the discussion went. I don't know. But a 4-time NBA champion executive, it's hard for me to see what Bob Myers needs to do from like a legacy standpoint. Like he doesn't have to do anything else. He can literally just sit up and analyze the games, or he doesn't have to do anything. He built a dynasty. I like that Bob Myers has a good attitude. I like his energy, but I just wish we had more clarity on what the next hire is going to be like. I mean, he tried to answer it without answering anything, but like, he took the overall approach where I'm just going to list everything. That way I cover my tracks, like the first question was, what do you want to see in the next GM that you hire? And he's like, well, coaching, analytics, data, logistics, can they get the work on time? Like he literally listed everything. I wish he would have focused on like, we need the next person to come in and navigate this or that or that. And there still was a line of like, it was a blurred line of communication. Like I still don't understand what Bob Myers' role is going to be. He said he was going to communicate with them 5 days a week, but also be there for high-level decision-making like trades and free agency and all that. So, yeah. My overall takeaway, again, is that Josh Harris does not have a pulse on the team or what they need to do, and he needs to let Bob Myers do literally everything. Now, who should the Sixers hire? All right. And if there is anybody that you have in mind or things you want to see, do you want Bob Myers to be just the permanent GM? Or do you want the Sixers to go for someone else? Let me know in the chat. Here's the last thing we'll get into here. $5 super chat from Philly for Like. Thank you, my man. RB Bob Myers is making bank, homie. Just looking for a GM is about all he's here for. I'm pretty sure. Just a job to Bob. He has 4 chips. Yeah, exactly, man. He doesn't need to win anything else. He doesn't need to do anything. There's nothing else that Bob Myers needs to prove. However, there is one guy that I feel like has a lot to prove, because when you're a part of a winning organization, you tend to get to a point, right, where you're at the pinnacle, but you're the assistant, but you're not the main guy. And you're like, you know what? I want to take a promotion and I want to make more money and I want to be the next that. I want to look at that and I want to be the next version of that. Now, what am I talking about? Well, here's the candidate that I've been hearing a lot about and did some research myself on. And I think that this candidate would be perfect for the Philadelphia 76ers. Let me see if I even have a picture of him. I have his job history up here. Let's see if I can get his picture up here. Let's see. I'm going to look up a picture of him. My diehards might know who I'm talking about. Rest of the people, maybe not. Here he is. Here he is. His name is Vince Rosman. You may be asking yourself, wait, why does he have a 76ers logo and a 76ers practice facility background? Oh, wait, he used to be part of the 76ers organization. Matter of fact, he was part of the organization from 2006 until 2022. He was with the organization. Now, again, I know that may not sound right or well, because why would we want someone that's been a part of the failure? But hear me out. This guy was the scouting coordinator. He was the director of basketball ops and scouting innovation. Then he was senior director of scouting. Then he was vice president of scouting. And then he went to the Oklahoma City Thunder and became the vice president of identification and intelligence. And on top of that, one former Sixers GM, you may recognize his name, Mr. Sam Hinkie himself, gave Vince Rosman the stamp of approval. Here's what he had to say about Vince. Vince Rosman is incredible. He is also a hidden gem because he deflects credit so graciously. He is great with people, at evaluating talent, at systems, as a communicator. And he went to the Oklahoma City Thunder. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, here's a couple other fun facts that you may not know about. Vince Rosman with the Oklahoma City Thunder had a pivotal role in drafting Isaiah Joe for the Philadelphia 76ers. He had a pivotal role in the Thunder drafting AJ Mitchell, who, if you're not watching the playoffs right now, is completely lighting it up. 6th man of the year. This dude looks like an absolute stud. He has been appointed as one of the best talent evaluators in the OKC system right now. He's great with the draft, great with modern analytics and scouting, finding those hidden gem talent pieces. And it feels like he's one of the quickest risers, and he works directly under Sam Presti. And he has been with the Sixers organization. So, ladies and gentlemen, to me right now, Vince Rosman feels like a potential great hire for the 76ers. How old is he? I don't even know. Let's see how old he is. I think he's pretty young. He looks young. Let's see. Vince Rosman, who started as an intern with the Philadelphia 76ers. He is, it doesn't even say his age, but it says he's either in his late 30s or early 40s. So he's still pretty young. And he has a long way to go in this league. And he has been, I mean, again, I don't want to take away credit from Sam Presti, okay? Because Vince Rosman is not, you know, he didn't do everything for the Thunder. He didn't take credit for all that work. And, you know, he didn't draft the dynasty and make the SGA. None of that. But he's been very, very vital within their draft stuff, with finding AJ Mitchell, with finding Isaiah Joe. He has been pivotal. He probably helped with the damn McCain trade. Who knows? You know, it's hard to like name people in this search because I guess it depends what you want, right? Like if you want an established GM, then at least you know what their track record is. I'll be completely honest with you all. I don't want somebody that has made their rounds already. I don't want somebody that's 60 years old and has been a GM with 3 different teams, unless they're like a 4-time champion, cough, cough, Bob Myers. All right. And Bob Myers, it doesn't sound like is going to be the full-time GM. So I don't think there's anybody else out there that strikes me as like, okay, they're one of the best. We can go get them. So what I want is somebody that's young, that's on the come up, a quick riser, somebody that has new innovation, fresh ideas, understands the talent evaluation part of it, the scouting, the cap logistics, and really just how to, you know, balance a team in the modern era. Doesn't have to just sit with 3 stars at the top of the roster and 2-way guys on the rest of the team. Like, I want to find somebody that understands all of this stuff and just makes good decisions, you know? So that's how I personally feel right now. Do you agree or no? What do you think? $5 super chat. Philly for Life says, is Rosman unemployed? No, he works for the OKC Thunder. He works for the Thunder right now. He's the vice president of identification and intelligence. So he has been doing all of these things for the last 4 years with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Before that, he was with the Sixers. Matter of fact, the tweet I just showed you, that was a reply to when Adrian Wojnarowski, man, shout out to Woj. This was on July 27th of 2022. OKC Thunder hire Sixers executive Vince Rosman in scouting as VP of Identification and Intelligence. Rosman worked his way up in Philly from intern to a VP role over 15 plus years. So, yeah, man, he's with the Thunder right now. Is he really going to come here or stay on a championship team, RB? Would love him, but I don't know if I see him leaving the organization. So, again, guys, that goes back to where I started this conversation. Excuse me. Remember what I said 5 minutes ago? When you're a part of a winning organization, right, and you're a guy like a Vince Rosman, it's nice to bank in the championship, and it's nice to get the ring and be a part of a team like that. But eventually, you get to a point where you're like, hey, I may have made a couple big decisions behind the scenes, but nobody ever knows about it except the league executives, right? People that are within that like circle. So I'm sure Vince Rosman, as long as the guy is motivated, is going to say to himself, hey, if I have a chance to become a GM and run an entire show, learning everything that I have and like using that and applying that knowledge, better life for my family, more money, more opportunity, a chance to like lead the helm and go back to Philadelphia where I started, that hired me as an intern. I think it makes perfect sense. I think it makes perfect sense. What do you guys think, man? What do you think? $2 super chat. Philly for Life says, agreed 1000%. I want a young buck RB, a hungry dude. And you know what? I also feel that same way about the coaching. Now, again, they're going to keep Nick Nurse. They just announced that. They announced it a couple days ago. So Nick Nurse is going to be the guy. But if the Sixers ever do end up making a head coach change, I kind of want a young riser, man. I want somebody that's just going to be fearless and bring new ideas and all that stuff. Somebody that nobody really knows about. Thinking about the OKC Thunder, actually, right? Mark Daigneault, same kind of thing. So that's how I feel about that. Again, whoever comes in to run this organization is going to be in a very tough spot. I know that Josh Harris and Bob Myers made it sound like it, it's like not that crazy, but it kind of is. So whoever comes in needs to be confident with what they want to do. That's how I feel. Let's see. Can we trade Paul George for Rosman? I don't think that's how it works, man. Cool J says, OKC fleeced us. Now we have to fleece them. That's actually a good point, man. That's actually a good point. OKC took one of our guys. And this was before the come up, right? This is when they still were having a couple down seasons. But, I mean, he has been very vital in what OKC has done. Let's see. Anything else in here, man? I don't know what the chat's kind of talking amongst themselves. Jameer Nelson says, Mitch, Jameer Nelson, who obviously has ties with the organization as well. Jameer Nelson could be one, former player, guy that knows the game, could be one. There's one other that I wanted to talk about as well. Ematic says, unfortunately, until Josh Harris sells, we're going to be stuck in purgatory. You can tell he does not care. I have a bad feeling if they let Embiid milk the contract to max, he might want out. Well, I would hope that it doesn't get to that point either, but I don't think they can make everybody just buy back into the same product next year. And also, with those 3 contracts and with Joel Embiid's contract going with an uptick, right? Embiid's going to make even more next year. How are you going to balance this roster? You're going to have to do something. If you want any type of role players or depth on this team, you're going to have to do something. That's why they were stressing the 22nd pick so much. Anyway. One other guy I wanted to talk about is, where's my stuff at? Here we go. His name is Matt Lloyd. He is the general manager right now for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, I want you to keep in mind that although he is currently a GM, he does not make the decisions mainly for the Timberwolves. Like, he's not the first guy in charge. The Timberwolves president is Tim Connolly. He was formerly with Denver. If you don't know that story, go look that up. But this guy, Matt Lloyd, has his hand in a lot of different cookie jars right now in the GM search. I know he's talked to the Chicago Bulls and a few other teams as well. And he has a ton of experience. He's been the GM of the Minnesota Timberwolves since 2024. Before that, he was the senior vice president of basketball ops. He was an assistant GM with the Magic, and he did a ton of scouting with the Chicago Bulls from 1999 all the way until now. I mean, this guy's been in the league. He has over 25 years of experience, and he seems like one of the most popular names for not even just this job, but just any job. So Matt Lloyd's another guy to keep your eyes on. Do I think he would come here? Probably not. I mean, it seems like they have something good going on there in Minnesota. And plus, I think there's other jobs that he would probably value more. Like, I think there's other jobs where you don't have to go in and inherit 2 max contracts that are almost untradeable and are going to hinder the team. Because think about it this way, right? When you come into a team and you have to take on the mess that's there, like, if you don't turn it around, man, people start to look at you and they start to put your name out there, and you get a ton of blame and maybe get some cross-fired shots that aren't even your fault. And then it could hinder your future job search or whatever. So I do think someone that comes in here is going to have to be someone that is new, doesn't have a lot of experience, Because at that point, man, it's like, this is your first gig, like this is your first chance to prove like, hey, I can get a franchise out of turmoil. And I just don't see any experienced executive wanting to come in here and be like, oh yeah, like I'll just put my legacy on the line here and try to get them out of this. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel. That is kind of how I feel about everything right now. There are a couple other names too that are currently agents. There's a couple agents. One of them represents Giannis. So apparently, there's like a big surge right now in terms of agents of players wanting to become GMs. I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest with you. I really don't like that idea that much. I don't really like it that much, just because when you think about an agent and what their interests are, I mean, obviously they can't represent a player and then become an executive. So they would have to like switch careers kind of. But when you get involved with an agent and you know how much influence they have over what a certain player wants and how they can kind of be swayed and how they kind of dictate things to different teams, that just kind of leaves me a little bit uneasy. So I don't really want an agent. I would rather have like a young riser in a front office. So that's how I feel. Kenneth Jackson in the chat says, how about Malik Rose? Could be an interesting name. I believe Malik Rose right now is running operations for, is it the G League? I mean, obviously he's a hometown guy, but like, what does he do? He stepped down from the Pistons front office in 2020, and he took on a job with the NBA front office as vice president of basketball ops, and he was named head of basketball ops for the NBA G League. Okay. So Malik Rose, another name that the chat says. They might pick Andre Iguodala. I don't see that happening, honestly. But that would be very interesting. Somebody said, can Elton Brand become president? Yeah, that's not happening. I'm sure they'll interview Elton Brand. They'll give him, the courtesy of doing an interview, but I don't see any way that Elton Brand, especially a guy that previously held the role and was part of what's going on right now, gets the job. No, thank you. I think you read too much into the interview, and I think you don't understand a lot of the things he was saying. That's because he didn't say anything in the interview. They didn't really say much at all. I pointed out the things they said at the end, but for most of that press conference, they didn't say much at all. And again, maybe we should have expected them to not say anything, but then again, it's like, why are you holding a press conference if you don't want to answer any questions? So that's how I feel. Anyway, man, I feel like that's what I have here. It was certainly an interesting presser. They finally did answer some things at the end, but I still come away feeling like there's not a clear direction, and there's not, it doesn't sound like there's like a clear pathway to what they want and what they're going to get. Hopefully they make the right hire, and hopefully we come out on the other side of this with somebody that's new, fresh, and can find a way out of this. But outside of that, you also have to make the roster better. Whether you get the best GM in the world and the best coach and the best whatever, like you have to have guys healthy that can play. And you need to hit on that draft pick, which is why I hope they find somebody before the draft so that they can have a say in who's going to be drafted, or what they want, or what they need. And then also navigate free agency, right? Like you want to have a GM that's going to be able to have a say in the draft and free agency. So anyway, man, that's where I'm at. That's how I feel. I've only seen Myers on TV. Yeah. I mean, he's a 4-time NBA champion executive, and then he went to TV, but he has accomplished a lot. He's been a part of a good organization. RB's going to be mad when Brandon's promoted. Yeah, he's not going to be promoted, man. I see 0% chance of that happening. But we'll see. We will see. All right, guys. Sixers presser in the books. It was very interesting. But the offseason continues. Only the first week after being eliminated. Still a long way to go. We'll see who gets hired in the role, what their vision is. We're going to start talking about draft stuff. And of course, we will be streaming the rest of the playoffs. So make sure to tap in, hit the noties, hit the subscribe button, follow us everywhere. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and week. And I will catch you all on the next one, man. Have a good one, everybody. Peace.